until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. The root of racial hatred, according to psychologists, is unconscious guilt within the individual who harbors such feelings. People who hate specific racial groups often display a broader pattern of hatred towards various groups. This could be based on economic status, political affiliation, or religious beliefs. This hatred is actually a reflection of the individual's self-loathing and guilt, which they then project onto others, particularly those in minority groups who are less able to defend themselves. This phenomenon, known as projection, involves attributing one's own negative traits or desires to others. This is a powerful journey through history as we unveil the chilling timeline of lynchings in the United States from 1886 to 1960. This video is created with a deep sense of responsibility and a heavy heart. We're delving into a dark chapter of our past, uncovering the horrifying acts of brutality inflicted upon our ancestors. This isn't just a recount of events, it's an exploration into the mindset that fueled these atrocities. Whether you're familiar with the term lynching or encountering it for the first time, this video promises a profound understanding of the psychology behind these inhumane acts. Brace yourself for an eye-opening experience that will not only inform, but also deeply move you. In 1894, there was a significant shift in how Americans started to view the violence and unfair treatment of African Americans. This problem wasn't new. It had been growing for about 10 years, but it had become so common that it stopped shocking people. This change came after African Americans were freed from slavery, a time when white people had a lot of control over them. When slavery ended, this control turned into violence. After slavery was abolished, white people no longer had a financial reason to keep African Americans safe, which led to more violence against them. Over 30 years, more than 10,000 African Americans were hurt or killed, often by white people who didn't face much punishment for their actions. As people started to realize how bad this was, white people in the South came up with excuses for their behavior. At first, they said they were trying to stop race riots, but this excuse didn't last because there wasn't real proof of these riots. Then, the excuse changed to stopping African Americans from voting and having a say in government, which led to even more violence. This time was marked by many terrible events, where African Americans were harmed for trying to use their rights, especially in voting. These sad events show how some people were strongly against African Americans having equal rights and would go to great lengths to stop them. Most of the thousands of African Americans lynched were not even accused of crimes against women, contradicting the common belief that lynching was mainly for sexual assault. Between 1882 and 1899, less than a sixth of those lynched were accused of such crimes, with many lynched for reasons like arguments, threats, or no reason at all. These facts show that the stereotype of African Americans as being particularly prone to assault women is false and was used by racist whites to justify their inhumane treatment of black people. New York, Truth Seeker, April 17, 1880. James Webster Smith, the first African American cadet at West Point, was recently subjected to a brutal attack. Smith was taken from his bed, gagged, bound, and severely beaten, following which his ears were slit. He has stated he cannot identify who assaulted him. In a startling response, fellow cadets allege that Smith inflicted these injuries on himself. Chicago Tribune, November 22, 1895. In a tragic case of mistaken identity, a lynching occurred in Madison County, Texas, where a black man was wrongfully accused and killed. The incident took place on Tuesday night, when he was blamed for injuring a young white girl by riding his horse over her. However, by Wednesday, it emerged that the mob had targeted the wrong individual, while the actual person responsible managed to escape. Weekly Republican, January 19, 1896. Tensions are high in Manatee County, Florida, where a violent incident has highlighted racial strife. The conflict began when the son of the county sheriff and a poor black boy had a quarrel, with the latter emerging victorious. In response, the sheriff, along with an armed group of white men, attempted to forcibly take the black boy from his family's cabin at night. The boy's father, refusing to surrender his son and fearing for their lives, shot and killed the sheriff and two other men, as they attacked the cabin. Following this, the father and his son fled to the swamps, with their current whereabouts unknown. In retaliation, the white mob has been attacking the black community, firing into homes, burning properties, killing some residents, and forcing others to leave the area. They are also pressuring local employers to dismiss their black workers. Kissimmee Valley, Florida. Gazette, April 28, 1899.
Bluetooth,
Sam Holt,
ready for
a black man
connection.
accused of murdering Alfred Cranford and assaulting Cranford's wife, was burned at the stake near Newnan, Georgia. The execution occurred on Sunday, July 23rd at 2:30 p.m., with an estimated 2,000 people witnessing the horrific event. Holt, tied to a sapling, endured extreme suffering as the crowd mutilated his body and watched his agony with apparent satisfaction. The lynching was marked by a gruesome display of brutality, with the crowd seeking souvenirs from Holt's burning body. Remarkably, Holt displayed significant courage under such dire circumstances. Despite his claims of innocence, he was purported to have confessed under the intense pain of the flames. A notable aspect of the lynching was the involvement of a man from the north, who actively participated by dousing Holt's clothes with kerosene. Mrs. Cranford, the alleged victim, was not present to identify Holt, with her mother instead providing identification, although she did not witness the crime. The event was conducted openly, without masks or secrecy, highlighting a disturbing boldness. A placard near the site proclaimed, "We must protect our Southern women," reflecting the community's justification for the lynching. New York Herald, July 24th, 1900. In Huntsville, Alabama, a 20-year-old black man, Elijah Clark, was lynched by a large mob of local citizens. The incident occurred yesterday afternoon, as Clark was being transferred from Madison County Jail for a preliminary court hearing. The mob overpowered law enforcement officials, took custody of Clark, and transported him to the location of his alleged crime. There, he was hanged, and his body was subsequently filled with bullets. Chicago Record, January 4th, 1901. In Rome, Georgia, George Reed, a black man accused of attempting to assault Mrs. J.M. Locklear, was lynched by a mob despite being freed by the court. Reed was initially arrested and brought before Mrs. Locklear, who failed to identify him as her assailant. Consequently, he was returned to jail. However, a mob of 150 men, unsatisfied with the legal process, continued to demand Reed's punishment. Judge Henry of the Superior Court, finding no reason to hold Reed, ordered his release. The mob, learning of his release, captured Reed within the city limits and took him 3 miles away, where he was hanged and his body shot multiple times. New York Times, June 23, 1903. In Wilmington, Delaware, a mob of approximately 2,000 people violently lynched George White, a black man suspected of murdering 17-year-old Helen S. Bishop. The incident occurred last night when the mob forcibly removed White from the workhouse. They proceeded to burn him at the stake and then shot his body multiple times. Chicago Record Herald, July 15, 1903. In Eastman, Georgia, a black man named Ed Kloss was lynched last night, while his alleged victim, Miss Susie Johnson, witnessed the event. Kloss was accused of attacking Miss Johnson, a school teacher, last Thursday. She was held captive for several hours before being found by a search party the next morning. A posse of 50 farmers tracked Klaus through 7 counties before capturing him. He was brought back to Eastman and taken to Miss Johnson's home, where she identified him. When asked about her wishes regarding Klaus, Miss Johnson stated he should be killed. Subsequently, Klaus was tied to a tree and shot by the mob until his body was extensively mutilated. New York Tribune, March 18, 1906. In Plaquemines, Louisiana, William Carr, a black man, was lynched today in a methodical manner by a group of 30 masked individuals. The incident occurred without any formal proceedings. Carr was accused of killing a cow belonging to a white man. The mob quickly took Carr to a railroad trestle, where they proceeded to hang him. Birmingham News, August 4, 1910. In Pensacola, Florida, there is a state of panic as African Americans are reportedly fleeing the area near Dade, Florida, for their lives. The situation escalated following the murder of a young schoolgirl, Bessie Morrison, last Friday. In a series of events fueled by vengeance, farmers have abandoned their work to join posses. A recent report indicates that a black man, accused of being connected to the murder for lending an amulet to one of the suspects, was captured and brutally lynched. He was hanged and then shot, becoming the fourth black individual lynched in connection with this crime. The severing of telephone lines in the area has obscured further details and the reasons behind the ongoing pursuit of African Americans in the region tonight. Montgomery Advertiser, January 23, 1912. In a horrific act of vigilante justice in Hamilton, Georgia, a mob of 100 men stormed the Harris County Jail tonight. They overpowered the jailer, E.M. Robinson, and forcibly removed 4 African Americans, 3 men and 1 woman. The mob took them to a location a mile from town and lynched them, hanging them from trees. Following the hangings, the mob shot the bodies, firing an estimated 300 shots. This brutal act was in response to the murder of Norman Hadley, a well-to-do young farmer, last Sunday. 4 black tenants, Belle Hathaway, John Moore, Eugene Hamming, and Dusty Cruthfield, were arrested and charged with the crime. Despite no immediate threat of lynching perceived by Sheriff Hadley, who was away in Columbus, public sentiment in Hamilton grew increasingly hostile throughout the day. By evening, a large crowd had gathered, and despite the jailer's efforts, they broke into the jail, seized the accused, and executed the lynching. The victims protested their innocence until the end, but the mob dismissed their pleas. Montgomery Advertiser, August 28, 1913. In Jennings, Louisiana, an African-American man, James Comio, was lynched by a mob early this morning. He was forcibly removed from his jail cell after midnight, shot to death, and his body was left at the jail's entrance. Comio's arrest came after an altercation with A.W. Joseph, an Italian merchant. The conflict occurred when Joseph reportedly swept dirt onto Comio's shoes at Philadelphia Inquirer, January 3, 1916. In a tragic incident in Anderson County, South Carolina, 2 African-American men were lynched, and a black woman was severely beaten over a remark made to a white girl. According to reports from Hartwell, Georgia, the incident occurred when the 3 black individuals, traveling in a buggy, passed by the girl. One of the men allegedly made a comment that offended the girl, who then informed a group of white men. These men quickly apprehended the black individuals, lynched the 2 men, assaulted the woman, and ordered her to leave the state. Conflicting reports have emerged about the nature of the remark. Georgia County officials claim the comment was, "Hello, sweetheart," while the black woman involved insists it was simply a greeting of, "Hello." New York Negro World, May 29, 1920. In Lakeland, Florida, new details have emerged regarding the lynching of Henry Scott, a black Pullman porter who was killed by a mob. The incident, which occurred 2 days ago, was reportedly prompted by an alleged insult to a white woman. However, Scott denied any insult. According to Scott, the issue arose when the woman demanded immediate assistance with her birth while he was occupied with another passenger. When asked to wait, she became indignant. She subsequently sent a telegram to the next station, accusing Scott of insulting her. Upon the train's arrival, Scott was taken into custody by a deputy sheriff, but a mob later overpowered the sheriff and lynched Scott. The coroner's jury concluded with the standard verdict of death at the hands of parties unknown. New York, 1920. In Durham, North Carolina, a lynching occurred in a shocking and unusual setting. Edward Roach, a 24-year-old black prisoner, accused of assaulting a 13-year-old white girl, was forcibly removed from the county jail in Roxborough. He was taken by a mob of over 200 masked individuals and hanged. The incident took place yesterday, with Roach being executed from a tree limb located in a rural black churchyard. Kansas City, Missouri, July 7, 1920. A horrific double lynching occurred in Paris, Texas, where 2 African-American brothers, Irving Arthur, 19, and Herman Arthur, 28, were burned at the stake by a mob at 8 p.m. tonight. The brothers were accused of murdering their landlord and his sons, John and William Hodges.